Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Hopefully your Sunday is like our Sunday here in Southern Ohio. Very nice, like 60, 62 degrees, partly cloudy. It's a good deal. The topic, TowerGate. Okay, so here's a little bit about what we do know. Back in the summer of 2016, there was a request for a FISA warrant to surveil Trump Tower. This was rejected. Then in October, another request was made for a FISA warrant, and this was accepted. It appears that there was surveillance done. Specifically, it looks like it was on a computer server at Trump Tower, having to do with possible financial transactions between two Russian banks and the Trump Corporation. And of course, they found nothing. But it appears that the surveillance continued. So in Donald Trump's tweet, he comes out and says, well, Barack Obama launched this surveillance on Trump Tower. Now, I don't really think that Donald Trump meant Barack Obama specifically, or that he has proof that Obama specifically did that. First of all, because legally, Barack Obama or the president cannot initiate a FISA warrant against someone. That has to happen through usually the Department of Justice, the FBI, someone like that. And because we are talking about a very high-profile person at that time, the Republican nominee, we would think it would certainly be someone at the very, very highest levels, the Attorney General, maybe the Assistant Attorney General, head of the FBI, someone like that, maybe head of Homeland Security. It has to be a very, very high-level official, and it's hard to believe that they would do that without making the president aware of that. But we don't know any of that yet. We just know that Obama probably wasn't the person who initiated it technically, legally. We can't prove that. There's probably not going to find a paper trail. We know that the president couldn't have signed that FISA warrant, and unless Trump has a handwritten memo from Obama directing someone to do it, or unless he has some human intelligence, some person who was in the presence of Obama firsthand when he directed someone to do that. Short of that, I don't really see how that you're going to prove that Obama directed it, even though many of us can probably assume that he did. It's what you can prove, not what you think or believe. It's what you can prove. So I don't know that Donald Trump is going to be able to prove that Obama ordered this. However, it does leave a lot of questions that need to be asked. And I believe that Donald Trump, because he is president, will be able to get this information, because when you go for a FISA warrant, it leaves quite a paper trail. It's not like this is all done verbally. And to get the FISA warrant, you have to give some sort of reasonable suspicion or probable cause to the judge who's going to either grant that or deny it. You can't just go to the FISA court and say, yeah, you know, we would like to listen in on this guy or surveil their phones and computers to see if anything's going on. Because we think that there might be something going on. You know, you have to have more than that. So, here's the questions that I believe need to be asked and answered in order for us to better understand exactly what we have going on here. First, who was it that issued the request for the FISA warrant back in, I believe it was June, the first one that was rejected, and what were the reasons? What was the probable cause or reasonable suspicion in that FISA request? What was that information? We need to know that. Number two, who issued or requested the second FISA warrant back in October? And what was the reason, probable cause, or reasonable suspicion that is listed on that request? What is that information? If in fact it was the Attorney General or the Assistant Attorney General that actually requested one or both of those warrants, we need to be asking that person, possibly Loretta Lynch, maybe James Comey, if they were instructed to go for this FISA warrant, and if so, by who? And if not, if it initiated with them, with the Attorney General or the FBI Director or Homeland Security or what have you, What information did they have that led them to believe that they needed to go get a FISA warrant? Next question. Once the second FISA warrant was approved and they did their surveillance and they determined that there was nothing to be learned, there was no crimes or anything like that being committed, and they were satisfied that there was no problem, nothing going on, why did the surveillance continue? And when did it actually end? Next question. Was the president made aware of this first or second, I should say, FISA request? When was he made aware of it? Next question. Once this second FISA warrant went into place and the surveillance began, was the president being given reports or information on what was being learned from the information that was coming as a result of this surveillance? Next question. If Obama was receiving information about anything that was being learned from the surveillance on Trump Tower, did he share that information with anyone, and including anyone in the Hillary Clinton campaign? So these are some really good questions that I believe we are going to get the answers to a lot of these questions, because again, when you go for a FISA warrant, there is a paper trail. We should be able to find out who requested these FISA requests, who requested these. We should know when they requested these and what their reasons were. It would also be interesting if we could find out, and I don't know that we will, find out who the judge or judges were who decided to approve this FISA warrant. That would be very interesting to know. Because we really don't know much about the FISA court. It's pretty secret. I don't like the FISA court. Never have. And hopefully this entire thing will bring up that conversation, and we'll talk and end up talking a little bit more about this FISA court. Maybe start asking some more questions. But these are basically the questions that we need to have answered. A lot of these questions will be answered, as far as when these requests were made, by who, what reason, when this surveillance, what they learned from it, when they actually stopped the surveillance, whether or not this information was being shared, and with whom, as far as other intelligence agencies, meaning the names of these individuals. Now, in cases like this, I would think that already it's a political problem for Barack Obama and the Democrats. It certainly has shifted the issue from Russian involvement in the election to now it appears that it was involvement possibly with the within the previous administration, the intelligence agencies, and others who were actually involving themselves in the elections. And I think that that's kind of how this is going to end up looking. I assume that based on what we're talking about here, that once it is accepted fully, when the facts fully come out, which I expect will happen in the next 2 to 3 days, once America understands the basic facts, if those facts are that yes, there were FISA warrants to have surveillance on Trump Towers, yet it was issued by the Obama administration, as far as the Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General, someone like that, maybe the FBI Director. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to know if there was political motivation, and that's going to be the key question. Because if they can prove that there was political motivation, and that the information that was used to to request the warrant, if that is the case, then the next question has to be, where did that intelligence come from? Now you start opening up a Pandora's box when you start asking those questions about the origins of intelligence that either the Attorney General, the FBI Director, or the President would have had. And if it turns out to be this guy, this intelligence operative from the UK, that's going to be a very, very big problem, because this guy's credibility is already greatly in question. And that's going to make it look like it's a political witch hunt. If that is the case, then we could possibly see people being brought up on charges for sedition. And what happens when you get people who are looking at some serious jail time? They start talking. So it is possible at this point that over the next 3 or 4 days, we are going to have enough information to where the public is going to be able to come down on one side or another, whether this was actually a legitimate inquiry into possible connections between the Trump and his people and the Russians, or was this a political witch hunt? If by the end of this week the majority of Americans believe this is a political witch hunt, you are going to see people probably coming forward to save their neck. People who will be willing to talk and will be willing to give up information, sources, things like that. And I still believe, again, as I said in a previous video, that these leaks and this whole operation that's being going on, I have no doubt, is an operation. It's a program being run probably by the Obama administration that he set up before he left office to make sure that they could produce what we see happening right now. And this is evident by the timing of the releases of these allegations and this information. So I think that we're going to learn a lot more by the end of the week. And if it looks like public opinion believes that this was a political witch hunt, then it is kind of like a Watergate type scenario. And just as you saw in Watergate, it's just a matter of time when you start questioning people and bringing pressure on them that eventually someone rolls over. In Watergate, it was John Dean, the president's lawyer. Had John Dean kept his mouth shut and gone and probably done a little jail time like a lot of the other Nixon folks, they probably would never have gotten to Nixon. John Dean turned out to be the guy who rolled. He's the guy who crumbled at the knees and started coughing up the info, and to save his neck, he threw the president and members in his administration under the bus. Right or wrong, that's what happened. So, will there be a John Dean in TowerGate? We're going to find out, and I think it's going to happen very, very soon, because this is a story, everybody's on it. It's a story that is a type of story that really catches fire. It's very politically charged. And I would say that it's not going to take more than a few days before some of these questions get flushed out. We're going to find out who issued those warrants and why, or who requested the surveillance and why. Once we understand the answer to those questions, that's going to have a lot to do with whether or not people look at this as being a political motivation or intelligence just doing what they're supposed to do. Right now it looks political to me. We're going to find out. If the majority of people believe that by the end of this week, I think that you could see a lot of people feeling a lot of pressure. You could start having some people coming forward to save their neck. So this thing does have legs. I don't think it reaches all the way to Obama as far as a prosecution, but certainly could tarnish his legacy. And there will be certainly those who may have to fall on the sword for him. So you have to ask the question, will Comey or Loretta Lynch fall on their sword, possibly look at maybe jail time to save Obama's hind end? It's possible, probably likely that they would. But we'll have to wait and see how it all turns out. But that's the status of things as we are looking at them here today and Sunday. A week from now, this story is going to be a lot different than it is from today. It's going to be a fast-moving story. And by the end of the week, we're going to know the information that we need to know to determine whether or not this was a political witch hunt or whether it was the intelligence agencies doing what they're supposed to do. And from that point, things are going to end very badly for somebody. Either by the end of this week, either there's going to be a political shitstorm headed for Barack Obama, Loretta Lynch, and others in his administration, or Donald Trump is going to be extremely sorry that he made that tweet. All right? That's how I see it. And look forward to watching this story, and I'll probably do a video on it every day as it plays out. And we'll see what happens. Alrighty, you guys. Have a good one. Bye.